To Georgia 12 Tonight. I'm John Stone, Republican congressional candidate for Georgia's 12th congressional district seat. Welcome to the show. If it's your first time, you can send us your questions or comments to john@johnstoneforcongress.com. We try to check those each night and talk about the topics that we're getting the greatest feedback on tonight. Of course, it is Syria, as we have the U.S. Senate committee today voted by a split number to support President Obama's call for a new war in Syria, or for military intervention, I guess would be a more fair description, in Syria. Thanks for joining us. We do this each night with the hot topic of the day. This was an issue today in which we saw some Republicans cross the aisle and support the president. We saw some normally pacifist Democrats cross the aisle and support their president, or not cross the aisle, but simply support their president in spite of the fact they've been against every military action we've had to date. It was their president, so they supported it. Now we see it go to the whole Senate and probably eventually to the House next week when we come back into session. And it was interesting today. One of the funniest things I saw was President Obama saying that we needed to take military action in Syria to preserve the credibility of Congress. Now, what strikes me as funny on that is Congress has never threatened to do anything to Syria. Congress made no statement about intervening in Syria if there were detected use of sarin gas or any other weapon of mass destruction. It was the president who months ago, without consulting Congress, without bothering to call in the leaders of the House and the Senate from both parties to a closed-door meeting and come up with a common strategy on dealing with the crisis or tragedy in Syria, he unilaterally said he was drawing a line in the sand, and that if sarin gas or weapons of mass destruction were used, that would require military action. He did it unilaterally, without consultation, and without having a unified American position. Now that he's caught basically with no backing, he says, yeah, and if Congress doesn't approve what I said unilaterally, then it's their credibility for not backing me. So I guess the only credibility that Congress should have is credibility for backing whatever President Obama says. That's not the way the system works. That's not the way statesmanship works. President Obama should have called that meeting behind closed doors and had a unified approach with support from the leaders of both parties before making these statements. There's where the fault in this lies. Developments today: Russia has said that if we have a full investigation, they will support United Nations action, and they're, of course, one of the key members of the UN Security Council, which must vote unanimously for military action. The Russians were saying, if you can prove that the regime of President Assad used sarin gas against their people, we'll vote for military action. We're seeing very little on that. My problem is we are all stocked up on Middle East wars. We don't need to be getting involved there. We're involved all over the world. One of the most outrageous arguments I heard today, or hypocritical arguments, was James Carville was on the news just a few minutes ago, and he was saying a great reason we should do this is because we had the backing of Saudi Arabia, we had the backing of Turkey, we had the backing of Jordan, and all the other Middle Eastern Muslim nations in taking this action. Well, it strikes me, if we have their backing for taking military action, why isn't Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan, and those military countries taking their own military action to clean up their own section of the world with one of their own Islamic states? It seems they have an organization of Islamic states, of Arab states, that could take action in this, that could move in. They have militaries, most of which were built with American tax dollars we gave to them. And why is it on the far side of the world, if military action is needed according to these Middle Eastern countries, why are we going to the far side of the world to do it? Why aren't they taking it on their own? This is one of the things that burns me up on foreign policy. I think we have a horrible civil war going on in Syria. I think there are atrocities being committed by both sides, by both the regime of President Assad and by Al-Qaeda and the other groups that are there fighting. We've had it reported in the news of the atrocities committed by the side we support. It's something we should not be involved in. President Washington, in his farewell address, said, avoid foreign entanglements. We've ignored him, much to our own peril and much to our own great cost. in monetary terms, credibility in the world, and in the lives of young American men and women defending us in places that we maybe could have avoided. I think it's time we stayed out of this. I'm opposed to it. If I were in Congress next week, I would vote no to involvement in Syria based on the evidence that I have available right now. If there's more evidence to be brought up, if there's something in those classified sessions that we're not allowed to know, that we don't know here, I don't know. But based on what I've seen, I vote no. We stay out. If military action's needed, let the Middle Eastern nations go in there and clean up their own backyard rather than have us come from the far side of the world. We've spent enough of our lives and treasure. We don't need to get involved in every conflict around the world, even though there's some that are obviously horrible. Other nations need to step up. It's not our job to be the world's policeman, and it's not our job to pay for the national security of the whole dang world at American taxpayers' expense. That's where I stand. Again, call tomorrow night. Send your comments on at john@johnstoneforcongress.com. I'll be happy to talk about whatever topic is the hottest we got tomorrow night. Until then, God bless Georgia, God bless America, and good night.